Hi, CodeMonkey here. One of the things I used a lot in building my Flash games, and especially the virtual worlds, were events. And events are similar to callbacks because something happens and then you call a function, like maybe something is completed, and you're probably already using some events already in Phaser, but this is going to show you how to make custom events. We're going to continue on the Ninja game that we had been building before, and we're going to hook up that Nintendo controller that we made last time with events. Now, one of the nice things about events versus callbacks is that you can listen for the events everywhere if you set up a global event dispatcher system. Now, I'm not talking about global variables. We're going to be using something called a singleton, and if you're not familiar with a singleton, I will explain it in this video. It's very powerful. Let's get started.
CodeMonkey, get up, get coffee. CodeMonkey, go to job.
Now let's get our Ninja moving. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take out this debug information over here where we're logging out the keys because that is getting in the way. I'll just comment out console log frame names. And great, that's gone. Now, I want to make something that we can be able to snap the gamepad into another game easily without having to change any of the code. So we need to get information from the gamepad to the scene main. And there's two ways that we can do this. And one is by using callbacks. And callbacks are great, and I use a lot of callbacks myself. But there's another way of doing it as well, called the event dispatcher. And the advantage of an event dispatcher over having, say, the callback is that it can broadcast information to different places at the same time. Even though we only need to do it to one place at the moment, we're going to go ahead and set that up. We'll do it in the utility folder called Event Dispatcher, because we may need to put it in more places later. Event Dispatcher JS, and you don't have to worry about scope with the Event Dispatcher. That's a nice thing. Now, I was under the impression for the longest time that you could not have singletons in JavaScript, and maybe it's a recent change, I don't know. I was using ActionScript 3 in Flash for many years. I worked in Flash for about 15 years. I forget how long, AS3, but they had a neat thing in there called the Event Dispatcher. And what this really is the phaser signals. So class event dispatcher extends phaser signals. And instead of declaring a new event dispatcher, we're going to make it a singleton. Now, if you don't know what a singleton is, it is a class that only has one instance. So, for example, when we make something like the gamepad, we can copy that over and over by saying new gamepad. The nice thing about singletons is they are an alternative to a global object. Now, normally I would maybe make a singleton to store information in, but this is going to act as a message center to the rest of the game. So even though we may not need it as much for the gamepad, there's a lot of places we can use it. I think you're going to find it very interesting and useful. Let me show you how it works. So up above the class, we say let instance equals null. Now, I always thought that variables had to go inside the class. I didn't know that you could put them up here above the class, but it has something to do with being in this file or this module. So in two places, if instance equals null, and this is in the constructor when we're making a new event dispatcher, if instance equals null, then instance equals this. So instance will be assigned to the new instance of event dispatcher when it is instantiated or a new class is made. But it will only do that once. And instead of using new event dispatcher, we're going to use a static function called getInstance. And if the instance is null, then instance equals new event dispatcher. Now, because we're saying instance equals new event dispatcher, we probably don't need it up here as well. But just in case somebody else is using the code or you forget and make a new instance, it won't wipe everything out because instance can only be assigned once. So let's go ahead and put that in to our index.html over here, and then I'm going to show you how that works. And if you've taken any of my courses on Udemy, you know this already because we've done it in every class on there. So here in scene main, we'll do it up here at the top of create. This emitter equals event dispatcher, I almost said new. This event dispatcher get instance. And we're also going to put that into the gamepad. So we have an emitter inside the gamepad, and we have an emitter inside scene main. So in the go up function here, I'm going to say this emitter, emit, and then we simply need a string, go up. And then in scene main, I'll just make a function called set listeners, just to keep things organized, and I'll call it from the bottom of the create function. And then we say this emitter on, so now we're setting up a listener. And on that string go up, this ninja go up. And we'll bind it to the scene. And we could have used a callback, but I wanted to put in the emitter anyway for things later. You'll see it'd be very useful. Ninja go up. This ninja set velocity y, -200. Now let's check for mistakes. And there's one mistake. I apologize. I was using phaser 2 rather than phaser 3. It should be phaser events event emitter. And the other mistake is not returning the instance here. And there we go. When we push the up button, it goes up. We should probably put that on a jump button. I'm going to go ahead and hook up the rest of these. But to save some time, because we're going to have to set up a listener for every one of these, if we say emit, go up, emit, go down. So what we can do is make that up a parameter. So we can say control pressed and then go up as the parameter. So each of these will be a control press and only the parameter will change. That means we only have to set up one event listener, and that'll make the game run a lot faster the less things we have it listening for. So now in scene main, we change that go up listener to a control press, and we'll change the function to control pressed. And then we'll put in, we'll just call it param. And switch param so we can set up to detect which one, or you can just do a bunch of if-then statements if you like. Case go up, case go down, and now we can put the set velocity on button 1. Let's put left and right in for now. We'll worry about up and down later when we're talking about ladders. Set velocity x, -200 for the left and 200 for the right. One thing we didn't do, though, was put in a control released. So that would be for pointer up, but we can also just listen on the stage here. This input on pointer up, this stop ninja, and bind it to the scene. And then we simply set that X velocity to 0. So now I can move him back and forth and he doesn't keep running. And we can also play our animation. This ninja, anims, play run. And we'll put that over here in the go right as well. And idle up here when we stop the ninja. So that works. But going the other way, he runs backwards. And I used to try to use the old Flash method of saying ninja scale X equals negative ninja scale X, because it's changed from 1 there. The problem is, if you look closely here, you'll see that his collision box is not around him anymore. So his collisions won't work. You see what that green line is? Because normally it's surrounding him like that. So what we use is ninja flip X. And we set that to true. And then he flips, but he's still in his bounding box. So on go left, we need to flip him true. And on go right, we flip him to false. There we go. Now we've got a running ninja, and he's able to jump. We can put that jump animation on. We'll need to later detect that jump animation to see when it's over, so we can reset him back to idle or to running. But great, we've hooked up our controller, and next we're ready to put in some more things, some more platforms, some ladders, and eventually some bad guys. I hope you found this useful. I thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.